Wanna know how tough Pope was when he was young? Just watch what he does next, you'll see. Pope's pushing a cart of tools, sneaking through the hallway of a school. He sprays the door handle with a can of coolant, wraps it with a rag, and then smashes it with a hammer. Just like that, the classroom door pops open. On the other side, Baz, still a young guy back then, has a car waiting outside to back Pope up. Seeing the coast is clear, Baz uses bolt cutters to snap the chain on the gate, slips into the school, and hurries to meet Pope in the classroom. Their goal: steal all the computers in the room. The two quickly load the computers onto the cart and cover them with a white sheet to hide them. But right then, Julia, who's keeping watch in the hallway, gets spotted by a teacher on duty. Before the teacher can even ask why she's there, a noise from behind startles him. He turns around and recognizes Pope, one of his students. Julia tries hard to explain that it's not Pope, but the teacher doesn't buy it. By the time they rush to the classroom to check, Pope and Baz have already cleared out all the computers. Furious, the teacher drags Julia off to call the cops. Meanwhile, Pope and Baz have loaded the computers into the car. When Pope hears his sister's in trouble, he grabs a skateboard from the car and heads back to save her, leaving Baz alone with the haul. Back at the school, the teacher's got a tight grip on Julia, refusing to let go. Luckily, Pope arrives just in time, tackling the teacher to the ground. A janitor nearby tries to step in, but before he can get close, Pope swings his skateboard, forcing him to back off. To help Julia escape, Pope climbs the fire escape, drawing the teacher's attention. Thanks to his skateboard, he zips through the hallway like lightning, losing the teacher at a turn on the stairs. Julia makes it out and finds Baz's getaway car waiting outside. Pope soon climbs over the iron fence to join them, but before he can hop in, the teacher catches up, blocking his way. A fierce fight breaks out between them. Seeing Pope about to get caught, Julia ignores Baz's protests and jumps out of the car to help her brother. But as soon as she gets there, the teacher grabs her. Seeing his sister in trouble, Pope's rage explodes. He slams his skateboard hard into the janitor. At that moment, Baz notices security guards closing in. With no other choice, he leaves the siblings behind and drives off with the car full of computers. As expected, Pope gets pinned down by the guards. Fast forward over 20 years, and Pope's temper hasn't changed a bit. When he spots a group of reckless punks invading his turf, he storms over, ordering them to leave.
Get out. Why? Not hurting anyone.
The punks completely ignore Pope's warning, continuing to skateboard, which pushes his anger to the boiling point. Not long after, Darren shows up looking for Pope. He tells him that Lennon hasn't paid rent in months and still won't move out. Darren wants Pope to step in and teach him a lesson. Pope listens and agrees to help without hesitation. Before leaving, he hands a bat to a worker at the skate park, saying, "Don't let any of these punks come back here to play." But this seemingly simple task of collecting rent nearly costs both of them their lives. Darren knocks on Lennon's door, and he politely asks them to wait a moment, but a second later, they hear the sound of a gun being loaded.
Shit.
Realizing things are about to go south, the two bolt downstairs and hide behind a car. At the same time, Lennon steps out, gun in hand, saying he doesn't have any money but he's got a life to offer. Clearly, he doesn't understand how the Cody family operates. Facing a hostile tenant like this, they're not about to show mercy. Pope hands Darren a bottle of liquor, telling him to count to 20 and then throw it upstairs. Darren doesn't get why, but he follows Pope's instructions anyway. Somehow, in the blink of an eye, Pope scales up to the rooftop. When Darren finishes counting, he tosses the bottle, successfully grabbing Lennon's attention. Seizing the moment, Pope swings down from the roof, sneaking up behind Lennon and kicking him to the ground, then locking him in a chokehold. Darren rushes over, snatching the gun from Lennon's hand, and of course, Pope doesn't hold back, giving him a brutal beatdown. Afterward, Lennon opens up about his struggles. He used to be a soldier on the battlefield for the U.S., but a mistake during a mission led to heavy casualties for his team. The U.S. government deported him back home, stripping him of all his military benefits. His wife left him after hearing the news, and now he's just been drifting, barely getting by in this place. Hearing this, Pope feels a pang of sympathy. He tells Darren that if they kick Lennon out now, he might do something desperate and hurt innocent people. Darren agrees with Pope's take, so he decides to cut Lennon's rent for the next few months and even encourages him to find a new job to start over. Say what you will about the Codys, they might be ruthless, but they don't bully the weak. Maybe that's why they've earned the reputation they have today. In another scene, Joshua, who's been off the radar for a while, tracks down a jewelry dealer to sell a diamond Janine left behind, but the dealer, thinking Joshua's just a naive kid, tries to lowball him, offering only a third of the market value. What he doesn't know is that he's dealing with a key player in the Cody family. If you don't like the deal, you don't have to take it, no big deal. Is that how you want it? Are you selling or not? Because of this less than pleasant deal, it won't be long before Joshua makes him pay a heavy price. Back home, Joshua fills his uncles in on what happened, then digs into the dealer's background. They find out he's not only loaded but also has a house full of rare treasures, so Joshua decides to team up with his uncles for a new job, steal all those jewels for themselves. Right now, though, they don't have any solid leads for the heist. To get a better lay of the land, the next day, Craig is sent to scope out the dealer's place. He poses as a wealthy buyer there to purchase some high-end jewelry. This gives him a chance to slip upstairs unnoticed, but up there, every room is secured with a keypad lock. Before he can even try to crack one, he hears the dealer's voice behind him. "Oh, I was just looking for the bathroom. The bathroom's downstairs. I think I must have passed it. Is that why you're looking for the cameras?" The dealer tells Craig that the place is rigged with hidden cameras everywhere, and there are even pressure sensors under the floor. Everything Craig did just now was caught by security, and just like that, he gets kicked out. Looks like this place is tougher to hit than they thought. Back home, Joshua and the crew huddle up to plan their next move, but Craig shoots down every idea. He thinks with the kind of security they've got there, pulling off a heist is next to impossible, no chance at all. But then Joshua suggests they start with the dealer's brother, Arthur, who works under him. Joshua remembers how, during their last deal, the dealer kept humiliating his brother, mocking his looks and calling him dumb. Even though Arthur was pissed, he couldn't say a word back. Plus, as Joshua was leaving, Arthur said something cryptic. "Hey, don't come back here again." So Joshua tracks down Arthur and gets straight to the point. "I want to steal your brother's jewels. You want my help?" "Exactly. Why should I do that?" "Because he doesn't even treat you like a human." Joshua points out the stark difference in how the brothers are treated. The younger one lives in a fancy mansion every day, while Arthur's stuck in a rundown shack. Is he really okay being his brother's lackey for the rest of his life? Those words start to get to Arthur. Seeing his hesitation, Joshua leaves his phone number, telling Arthur to call if he changes his mind. A few days later, Arthur does reach out to Joshua, agreeing to join their heist, but the security at the dealer's place is too tight, they'd have no shot at breaking in directly. However, Arthur reveals that a shipment of gems worth $2 million is about to be transported to an exhibition. He can provide the time, location, and a batch of fake jewels for them to use in the job, but once it's done, he wants a 50-50 split of the profits.
20. 30. 25, and we'll guarantee you 50 grand.
With that, they strike a deal. The exhibition kicks off soon after, and the Cody brothers get to work. Joshua and Pope follow a garbage truck to an empty lot behind the venue, using a blueprint to locate the mansion's water pipes. They use a saw to cut into the pipe, and Joshua hooks it up to the garbage truck, turning on the valve to let sewage flow back into the building. At the same time, Darren, disguised as a security guard, slips into the mansion to do a check. While he's talking to the manager about safety protocols, a woman suddenly bursts out of the bathroom, yelling that the toilet's busted. The manager has no choice but to call for a repair crew to fix it immediately. Right on cue, Pope shows up, posing as a repairman. The manager's in such a rush that security doesn't even check Pope's tool bag before letting him inside. Once inside, the sight of dirty water flooding the floor makes Pope gag. He can barely hold it in. He quickly texts Joshua, who's waiting outside for backup, and the mess gets sucked away in no time. Then Pope pops open the tank behind the toilet, stuffing all the fake jewels inside. With that done, he hurries out of the mansion. Seeing Pope make a clean exit, Darren, still inside, springs into action. He disables the mansion's security system, shutting down the cameras and the police alarm. Then he heads to the bathroom, pulling out the fake jewels Pope had stashed there. At that moment, the host of the exhibition rolls up in a fancy car. Craig, disguised as a paparazzo, leads a group of fake photographers, swarming the front and snapping pictures. While security's distracted, Craig slips into the mansion. When the rich guy drives in, Craig times it perfectly, darting out in front of his car. The sudden commotion draws everyone at the exhibition over, giving Darren the chance to swap out the real jewels on display. But just as he's about to switch the last necklace, the rich guy walks in with his girlfriend and puts the one real necklace on her. Seeing this, Darren's stumped, but he's not about to bail. Thinking fast, he comes up with a plan. He tells the girl he needs to take photos and asks her to take the necklace off. But before he can slip away, the rich guy storms over, blocking his path and demanding the necklace back, saying he doesn't want anyone taking pictures in here. What he doesn't realize is that in that split second, the necklace in his hand has already been swapped for a fake. With the swap done, Darren heads back to the bathroom, packs up the real jewels, and stuffs them into the toilet tank. He flushes, sending them through the pipes to Joshua, who's waiting outside. Joshua and Pope spot the jewels coming through, quickly grab them, and seal the pipe back up. Just like that, the haul officially belongs to the Cody family. Darren makes his exit soon after. The security guards outside check him but find nothing suspicious, so they let him go. And with that, the Cody brothers pull off the job flawlessly, working together like a well-oiled machine. Back home, Joshua drops a bold idea. He wants the family to go clean and quit the game for good. After all, with the money they've made from past jobs, just the interest from the bank would be enough for them to live the good life without a worry for the rest of their days. His uncles trust Joshua's smarts and agree with his thinking. They're tired of living in constant fear anyway. It seems like the Cody family might finally have a shot at a peaceful life, but just a few days later, Craig's son gets kidnapped by a group of thugs. Craig gets the news and rushes home, frantically asking his wife who took their son, but she's still in shock, too shaken to give any useful info. One of their crew steps in with a lead. They've tracked down some intel. It's a drug trafficking gang behind this. They showed up last month, setting up a smuggling operation by the river nearby, and their activity has been centered around that area. Hearing this, the crew jumps into action. Once they reach the riverbank, the Cody brothers quickly spot the drug-dealing thugs. Darren pretends to be a customer, stepping forward to ask about prices as a distraction. While the gang's guard is down, Craig charges in from behind, pulling his gun and pinning one of them down. He forces the guy into the car, threatening him to reveal the exact location of their drug den. It doesn't take long for them to follow the thugs' info to a rundown house. One of their crew spots the red car stolen from Craig's girlfriend, confirming the kid's inside. The brothers jump out of the car to take action, leaving their crew to keep watch outside. They gear up with bulletproof vests and weapons, ready to execute the plan. Darren uses his expert lock-picking skills to open the iron door, and they sneak in. They creep up the stairs to the second floor, spotting a bald guy focused on cooking drugs in a room. Darren moves in with his gun drawn, clamping a hand over the guy's mouth from behind, while Craig knocks him out cold with the butt of his gun. They keep searching for the kid in the other rooms, but at the end of the hallway, a huge guy suddenly appears. A brutal fight breaks out, but Darren reacts fast, firing 2 shots and taking him down. Craig kicks down the door to another room. The man inside freaks out, grabbing a gun from the table and aiming it at Craig. At the same time, Darren bursts in from behind him, but not wanting the kid to witness a bloodbath, Craig signals Darren not to shoot. Instead, Darren shouts to distract the guy, giving Craig the chance to tackle him. After subduing the man, Craig checks on Darren. Thanks to the bulletproof vest, Darren's unharmed. Craig tells him to get the kid out of there first, then, without hesitation, shoots the bastard who hurt his family. Meanwhile, in another scene, Joshua invites a lawyer to dinner at a restaurant, hoping to get her help with dividing the family's assets. But then, a figure catches his eye. He follows the man to the kitchen, asking why he's late for work. The man glances at Joshua, scoffing that he'll show up whenever he wants. It's none of Joshua's business. What he doesn't know is that Joshua is the real boss behind this restaurant. A second later, the man takes a hard punch from Joshua, hitting the floor. "Remember my face next time. I'm sorry. No need to apologize. Be late again and see what happens." Joshua calmly returns to his table. The lawyer notices a stain on his sleeve and asks what it is. Joshua wipes off the blood with a napkin, casually saying it's just some tomato sauce from the kitchen. While everyone's busy handling their own business, an uninvited guest sneaks into the Cody family's mansion. A female cop sneaks into the Cody family's mansion while Joshua and the others are out. She moves through the house, rummaging around, clearly looking for something. Eventually, she finds a box in Pope's room. Inside are a stack of letters and a few photos of Baz's ex-wife and his daughter. It's obvious her visit has something to do with the people in those pictures. That evening, Pope gets home and immediately senses something's off. He notices the box on his shelf is upside down, a detail that someone with Pope's obsessive-compulsive tendencies would never miss. He turns to Joshua. "Did you touch the box up there?" "No, you sure? Positive?" Right now, it's just Pope and Joshua in the house. Darren and Craig haven't been around for days, so Pope suspects someone broke in while they were gone. He quickly checks the security camera footage and finds a section that's been tampered with, confirming his suspicions. The next day, Pope heads to the skate park and grabs a punk kid. He suspects the kid might be the one who broke in, since 2 days ago, this same kid took a nasty fall while using Pope's skateboard. The kid's injury was pretty bad, and seeing as he was a homeless teen with nowhere to go, Pope had been kind enough to bring him home to recover, but Pope had no idea it was all a setup. The kid's real goal was to get close to the Cody family and gather intel on them. After some intense questioning from Pope, the kid finally cracks and spills the truth. "She's a cop. I'm on probation. She said she could get my sentence reduced. What precinct is she from? I don't know. I was just helping her get intel." "What kind of intel does she want?" Turns out the kid's a convict on probation. To avoid spending the rest of his life in prison, he agreed to work with the cop in exchange for a lighter sentence. He got close to Pope to spy on the family, which explains how the cop was able to break into the Cody mansion so easily. Now that the truth is out, the kid begs Pope for mercy. Pope, being the decent guy he is, doesn't make things harder for him. He just demands to know where the cop is hiding. "Are you in contact with her now?" Pope asks. "Tell me her address." That evening, the female cop, completely unaware of what's coming, steps out of the bathroom and finds Pope waiting for her in the room. But since Pope has already taken her gun, she has no choice but to follow his orders, pretending to be calm as she sits on the bed.
"And you were in my house."
Yeah.
"So how much?"
What?
"How much do you want?"
At first, Pope assumes she's like other cops, stirring up trouble with the Cody family for a payout, but her next words catch him off guard.
Who killed Catherine Bellin? You.
It turns out that not long ago, a construction crew dug up a body in an empty lot on the outskirts of town. The police found a passport in a nearby suitcase, and it belonged to Catherine, the woman the cop just mentioned. The cop suspects Pope is tied to Catherine's death because she spoke to Catherine's daughter. The girl said Pope came to their house the day her mom disappeared. The cop figures Pope killed Catherine that day, and she's right. Back then, Catherine had gathered a ton of evidence against the Cody family's crimes, but she refused to follow Janine's orders. She was determined to leave the ruthless crime family behind. To prevent any surprises, Janine convinced Pope to keep it a secret from everyone and kill her disobedient daughter-in-law. That's what set off the chain of events that followed. But right now, the police don't have solid evidence, so the cop has no choice but to let Pope go. Not long after, Pope returns to the mansion like a shell of himself. He spills everything to his brothers. Darren and Joshua are stunned, and for the first time, Pope feels a kind of fear he's never known. If his crime gets proven, he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. The next day, Joshua tracks down the best, most well-known lawyer in the area for help, hoping she can get Pope through this mess. After hearing the whole story, the lawyer points out that all the police have right now are theories, no hard evidence. As long as Pope doesn't confess, the police can't pin the crime on him for now. In the meantime, they need to buy time and gather evidence to prove Pope's innocence. But the police aren't about to give them that chance. By the afternoon, they bring Pope into the station as a murder suspect. The one interrogating him is none other than the same female cop he met 2 days ago. At first, Pope flat out denies every accusation the female cop throws at him, but she came prepared. Through her investigation, she learned that Pope deeply cares for his niece. After Baz and Catherine died, Pope didn't just take his niece in, he also set up a bank account with nearly $1 million to secure her future, just in case something happened to him. Even though she's not his own daughter, Pope treats her like she is, so the cop decides to use this as leverage, threatening Pope to force him into confessing to Catherine's murder. She warns that if Pope doesn't cooperate, she'll show Catherine's daughter photos of her mother's body and tell her that her uncle Pope killed her mom, leaving a permanent scar on the girl's heart. Do you want that, Pope? For your niece to see this picture? For the whole world to know her uncle killed her mom? That kind of verdict will ruin her life. But you can save her. All you have to do is admit what happened in the past. You know how to make this right. Her words break through Pope's weakest defense. He doesn't want his niece, who's already lost both her parents, to suffer any more pain. In the end, he gives in, confessing to everything.
Confessed to the murder of Catherine Bellin.
No, I didn't.
I want to talk to my client.
Just like that, the police arrest Pope for murder. Knowing the Cody family has made plenty of enemies with other gangs, Pope realizes that once he's in prison, there'll be no shortage of people coming for revenge. Worried about their brother's safety, Joshua and Darren quickly shell out a hefty sum to hire protection for Pope in prison. But Pope seems to hate the idea. He doesn't want a bunch of guards tailing him all the time, he just wants some space to be alone in there. He even lashes out, showing his frustration with the guards. "Stay away from me." The guards have no choice but to back off, but right after they leave, a group of burly men rush in, shoving Pope to the ground. The attack leaves him injured, clutching his stomach in pain as he collapses. Meanwhile, when Joshua hears that Pope got hurt in prison, he storms over to the broker, furious, and chews him out, saying if they can't protect Pope properly, they're done. At this point, the broker explains that his security team didn't do anything wrong, it's Pope's own arrogance that got him into this mess. If Pope wants to stay safe, he needs to cooperate with the guards. The next day, while the other inmates are resting in prison, Pope can't take his eyes off the big guy who stabbed him earlier. The guards notice and warn him not to do anything rash, saying starting a fight here isn't a smart move. But there's no way Pope can let the guy off that easily. He charges at the big man, slamming him against the wall and laying into him. It takes the prison guards rushing in to pull the two apart, finally stopping the fight. Pope gets thrown into solitary confinement. On top of that, the prison doctor prescribes a sedative typically used for mental health patients to calm him down. Meanwhile, the Cody brothers gather at the mansion to figure out how to help Pope through this crisis. But Joshua says the situation's too complicated now, they can't fix it anymore. He suggests they leave Pope to his fate and move on with their lives. Darren and Craig quickly shut down the idea. They argue that the family has already lost two key leaders, Janine and Baz. If they lose their big brother Pope too, the Cody family will cease to exist.
It's a family business, Jay. That's where the trust comes from, family. And there's no family without Pope.
After some back and forth, the group decides to break Pope out of prison, then take all their assets and flee to the neighboring country of Mexico to start a new life. The next day, they start prepping everything they'll need for the mission. After getting their guns and ammo ready, Darren and Craig head to a sketchy used car lot and buy two beat-up cars with shady origins. They plan to use them to evade the cops during their escape. To make sure nothing goes wrong, the two expertly check every inch of the vehicles. Joshua visits Pope in prison, bringing along a few childhood photos of him. The female cop inspects them and, finding nothing suspicious, lets Pope keep the pictures. While Pope is focused on looking at pictures of his sister, Joshua, sitting across from him, subtly signals him. Pope notices and finds something hidden behind the photo, a tiny tracking device. He immediately understands what Joshua's up to. Now it's all up to you. Can you keep in touch with us? Yeah, stay safe. At the same time, Darren and Craig head to a familiar beach to surf with the rest of the Cody family one last time. It's probably the most relaxed and happy moment they've had in a while. But when they get back to shore, they find the windshield of their car covered in profanity. Spotting a group of tall, tough-looking guys nearby, Darren walks over to ask if they know who did it. "Nah, man, that's messed up." "Yeah, it is. Probably some coward who did it and won't own up. You accusing us? If you've got the guts, come over here." Facing such blatant provocation, there's no way Darren and Craig are letting it slide. Back in his cell, Pope starts putting his plan into motion. First, he smashes the base of an electric kettle to get the wires inside, doing some quick rewiring. Then, using a blade fragment, he reopens the wound on his stomach, slips the tiny tracking device Joshua gave him inside, and heats up the modified wire to cauterize and stitch the wound closed. That afternoon, the Cody brothers gather at the mansion. Tomorrow, Pope's trial begins, and the police will use a secure van to transport him to court. That's their best shot to make a move. They start mapping out their escape route after hijacking the prison van, eventually settling on a remote desert with no one around for miles. But that night, Joshua goes to his room alone and fires up his laptop. He logs into the family's bank account where all the Cody brothers' money is stored. After a brief moment of hesitation, he opens a new account in his name and transfers over $5 million from the family's funds into it. This move foreshadows what's coming with tomorrow's rescue plan. The day of Pope's trial arrives quickly. The police escort him into the van and drive out of the prison. Darren and Craig, fully armed and ready, head to the spot they picked out earlier. The prison van has to pass through this road to get to the courthouse, a desolate stretch surrounded by desert for a 2-kilometer radius. Joshua, waiting up ahead, notices the signal from the tracker in Pope's body getting closer. He quickly texts his uncles, telling them to get ready to move. Darren and Craig immediately scatter spike strips across the road, load their guns, and find a spot to ambush, quietly waiting for the prison van carrying Pope to roll through. Joshua tails the van for a bit, but instead of following it all the way to the ambush spot, he turns his car around and heads in the opposite direction. Soon after, the van with Pope reaches the ambush point. Prison van and the escorting police car behind it lose control, crashing into the side of the road. Seeing their chance, Darren and Craig rush in with guns drawn. They don't see Joshua anywhere, but there's no time to think about that now. The priority is getting Pope out of the van and safely away from the scene. But during the operation, a cop who's still conscious stumbles out, firing at them non-stop. Craig drops to the ground, shooting through the undercarriage of the van and hitting the cop in the right leg. To avoid any more surprises, they quickly tie up all the cops. With that done, Craig grabs his gun, opens the van door, and successfully frees Pope. The three of them escape the scene in an off-road vehicle. At the same time, Joshua races back to the Cody family mansion. He turns on the TV, watching a news report about the hijacked prison van. Then he buys a new phone, calls the police, rats out Pope and his uncles, and even gives them the exact location of the three. Joshua heads to his room, packs his bags, and gets ready to take all the family's money and start a new life somewhere else. On the other side, Joshua's uncles reach the rendezvous point. Darren and Craig scramble to find the cars and supplies they'd prepped earlier, but Pope feels uneasy. Joshua still hasn't shown up. Pope takes off his bulletproof vest and uses a knife to reopen the wound on his stomach, pulling out the tracker. At that moment, Darren reaches the car, only to find all the tires slashed. He tries calling Joshua, but there's no answer. Meanwhile, Craig realizes the supplies they'd prepared are gone. It turns out that the day before, after visiting Pope in prison, Joshua had secretly gone to the rendezvous spot. While no one was around, he slashed the tires of the two shady cars his uncles had prepared, setting up the situation they're in now. Darren and Craig fill Pope in, and they realize Joshua sold them out. Pope stays calm, telling everyone to get out of there first, they'll figure things out later. But as soon as they leave, a swarm of police cars closes in. With no other options, they sneak into a nearby farm. They rush into the house, grab all the guns they can find, and spot an off-road motorcycle out back. But the bike can only carry 2 people. With the cops closing in, they're left with just 2 choices. Either all 3 brothers stay and fight the cops in a life-or-death battle, or 2 of them take the motorcycle and leave immediately. In the end, for the sake of his younger brothers, Pope decides to sacrifice himself. They all know deep down that if they part ways this time, they might never see each other again.
Hey, we're gonna be okay. I'm gonna be alright.
Then the 3 brothers share a tight hug, saying their goodbyes in silence, the way real men do. At this point, Pope has made peace with facing death. He grabs his weapons, steps out of the house, and takes on the cops. He raises his gun, aiming straight ahead, firing non-stop. But soon, he runs out of ammo. Pope's bulletproof vest takes a few hits, sending him crashing to the ground. He pulls out the 2 guns strapped to his hips and keeps fighting. Under Pope's fierce firepower, every cop on the scene goes down. Seeing his chance, Pope jumps into a police car and speeds off. Meanwhile, the 2 brothers who escaped through the back door get surrounded by more cops. Thanks to the motorcycle's agility, they manage to break free from the farm. But Darren's hand gets hit by a bullet, and since they need supplies to keep going on the run, they decide to rob a nearby convenience store. As soon as they step inside, Darren pulls his gun, threatening the owner to hand over all the cash and the keys to the car parked outside. But right then, the store owner's son shoots Craig. Darren jumps up, pointing his gun at the kid. The owner begs for mercy, and in the end, Darren doesn't kill the boy. He just grabs the money and keys, then helps Craig out of the store. On the other side, Joshua is at the house, smashing everything in sight. He's unleashing all his anger and frustration on the objects around him. At that moment, Pope climbs over the wall and returns to the mansion. When he steps inside, he sees that everything he and his brothers built has been destroyed. Furious, Pope storms into the room, grabbing Joshua from behind and choking him. Soon, Joshua stops struggling and passes out. But Pope doesn't kill him right away. He ties the unconscious Joshua to a chair. "We trusted you. We raised you like family. We let you in, we believed in you. And you betrayed us. You betrayed my brothers. You deserve to die." But Joshua still tries to lie, claiming he only came back because the cops were after him. "Stop lying," Pope snaps. Joshua drops the act. "You deserve it. You all deserve it. For everything you did to my mom. You deserve it. You could have saved her. But you didn't." Hearing this, Pope shoves Joshua into the lake. At the same time, memories flood back to him. Back then, Julia was pregnant, but because she deceived Janine, she got kicked out of the house and ended up living in a homeless encampment. Pope had wanted to speak up and stop it, but he was too afraid of Janine's authority to say anything. In the end, Janine threatened Julia with a gun, forcing her out of the car. Julia kept begging Pope for help, but from start to finish, he didn't dare do a thing. That moment became a scar in Pope's heart that would never heal. Seeing Joshua struggling in the lake, on the verge of death, Pope ultimately jumps in to pull him to shore. Maybe it's his guilt over Julia, or maybe it's his conscience eating at him. "She loved you so much. She always loved you. Her love for everyone never stopped. And you all did nothing for her." Those words make Pope's emotions even more complicated. He can't undo the pain he caused Julia, so he lets Joshua go, allowing him to leave the place. After that, Pope heads to the storage room, grabs a can of gasoline, and pours it all over the house. He looks at the home that once brought him warmth, and though he feels a pang of reluctance, he tosses a lit lighter onto the bed. The flames quickly spread through the mansion. Pope calmly walks to the poolside, looking at old photos of a young Julia and Janine. Unable to hold on any longer, he collapses to the ground. A broken man leaves this world alongside the fire. On the other side, Darren takes Craig to his favorite beach, with the wound in his stomach causing massive blood loss. Craig's consciousness fades. In the end, as Darren clings to him with reluctance, Craig slowly closes his eyes for the last time. Joshua, carrying a huge sum of money, escapes to a faraway place to start a new life. Because of his betrayal, the Cody family ceases to exist from that point on. Even though Joshua ends up as the last one standing, he loses all his family in the process. Perhaps this is his punishment. That's the full recap of Season 6, likely the final season of Animal Kingdom. What did you all think of the show? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for following along, goodbye, and see you next time.